Becky, because there's another Meghan story that's cropped up this week surrounding the controversy, it turns out, over Archie's birth certificate. What can you tell us?
Yeah, this has dominated my week quite a lot. There was a story in the Sun on Sunday newspaper, an intriguing story, but not a massive one, that 3 weeks after Archie's birth certificate was registered, it was changed. And that change was to take off Meghan's Christian names, Rachel Meghan, and replace it solely with her title, which is Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. Now, interesting probably to geeks like me. I'm not sure how interesting it is to other people, but where it really got ratcheted up was that Harry and Meghan were furious about this piece, and particularly the rather spurious suggestions in it that maybe they did it because they didn't want to be like the Cambridges. And they issued a really stinging statement accusing the paper of trying to whip up a storm of controversy when there was none. But in that, there was a pretty pithy rebuke, it seemed to be, to Buckingham Palace, saying that they'd only done this because they were dictated to by the palace. And trust me, Buckingham Palace do not want to get into a public row with this couple anymore. They really don't. But I think the feeling was they had to really very gently put the record straight as they saw it, that actually they didn't dictate it to them at all, and that it was a decision by the Sussex's office. Because apparently they wanted the birth certificate to be in line with other documents like the Duchess's passport. Harry and Meghan didn't take this lying down. Their representatives have seemed to have briefed papers like the New York Post. No, this is what happened. And something that should have been a quite innocuous story, although an interesting one, has really got blown up out of all proportions.
Well, let's be clear, what's happening here is it all stems from the foolishness of Duke and Duchess of Sussex, that in a fit of pique, they announced they wouldn't have any dealings whatsoever with Britain's popular press. So what this means is a newspaper like The Sun has a story or a tip, and normally you'd speak to the couple's representatives and they'd be able to explain the context, and then you might decide to publish the article or not, and it would include their comment. But instead, what happens is they can get no guidance or comment, so they run the article, and then you get a statement the following day, furious from Harry and Meghan, or often threatening legal action or something. And what it does is give the story a whole new lease of life. And it drags out a very minor story here into a whole sort of weeks of controversy. It just illustrates the craziness of their approach, I think.
I would have said it was most unusual, yes, but I think as Rebecca says, it's a kind of like a trivial issue which has been blown up out of all proportion. And once again, I'm sorry, but it seems to me that it's the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan, at the other end, who's sort of attacking everyone, seems to think of the palace as some sort of Politburo that she can have a go at whenever anything else like this happens, and it's not going to make relations any easier at all. I mean, it's so boring. I mean, who cares? It says on the birth certificate, I mean, it was bad enough, to be quite honest. I mean, if you really want to know, that's when I began to get very suspicious about what was going on, which was the whole business about the birth of poor Archie, because she's the first mother. I mean, I'm not a gynecologist, or an obstetrician, but she went into labour after giving birth to the child, apparently, according to the announcements that were made at the time. We were not allowed to know where she was, where the baby was being born. We weren't allowed to know who the godparents were. And I mean, it's just stupid. I mean, that really antagonised a lot of people.
Hugo, I think Meghan's grandmother by marriage, the Queen, has a mantra of never complain, never explain. Would you think that that's a wise course for Meghan and Harry?
Bit late, no? I mean, of course
there's always a new day.
of course it would be a good thing to do, but I mean, I think they're in a very difficult situation because they need to keep promoting themselves, and they have all these supposedly fantastic deals. I'm not sure that they will get the money that they expect from these companies. Very often these companies hire people and get a lot of publicity, and then a few months down the line they fire them and get even more publicity. But if you're thinking about what you're trying to do with Harry, when he was a member of the royal family on the balcony in a fantastic uniform, or going down the Mall in a carriage, the trooping the colour, something like that, there he is. That I can see you can market. But look at him now. He's a guy in an open shirt, or he's a chap coming off an aeroplane with a backpack and a woolly beard and a woolly hat, quite frankly. Try marketing that. It's not going to work. It's not going to get any better, I don't think.